Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode one of my podcast. My name's Brandon. I'm here with my friend, Stephen Bradley, my close friend, actually. We're, yeah, this is my first time ever doing something like this before. I'm definitely looking forward to getting into the swing of things, and I think that we're going to be talking about some really interesting stuff on this podcast. So, Stephen, would you mind introducing yourself to everybody?
I see you've done it for me, and I appreciate you not only inviting me on a podcast, but also your very first one. I was considering it when you did hit me up. You were kind of giving me the way around of what you wanted to be talking about, what topics you wanted to hit. And it's stuff that I'm knowledgeable on, stuff that I'm interested in. And I know that a lot of people are interested at large, and you have actually quite a bit of experience in it as well. So I'm not only is it for the fact for the podcast, but I just kind of want to hear what you have to say as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man. And yeah, I mean, I'm definitely glad to have you on as well. I deeply value and respect the wealth of experience that you have, all the shit that you've been through, all the knowledge that you've given me. So I figured that having you on would definitely make for having compelling conversation as we kind of already do that quite naturally.
Well, that is true. That is what we do.
Indeed, that be what we do for sure. So I'm gonna get into today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is the Holistic Solace, my homie who is doing a affiliate marketing thing for a company called Hempworks based in Las Vegas, Nevada. Hempworks provides a variety of different marijuana products, more specifically towards the CBD aspect. Where the sponsor's going to ask. It's cool. I'm gonna roll with it. Okay. Hempworks provides a variety of different marijuana products such as CBD. For example, they have their hemp infused coffee, which is crafted with care, and their blend combines the rich flavor of premium coffee along with soothing benefits. They also provide things such as full spectrum pet tinctures, which gives benefits such as supporting healthy cognitive function and promoting restful sleep for your pets. So I will be dropping their link in the description of this video. Be sure to check them out.
Wait, if I hear that right, CBD coffee for pets.
No, there's CV. That would be something for sure. Now they have a variety of different products. So they have CBD coffee, but they also have like a CBD oil that you can use for pets.
Huh. That actually sounds interesting. I've never
Yeah,
thought because when they put CBD with pretty much everything, especially, gee, you were alive. We were both alive for the craze when it became from illegal to legal. And then everyone started coming out with all the ideas and pretty much just CBD and THC and everything.
yeah,
And
and that's
overall,
the crazy thing is that CBD and THC are only two of the cannabinoids in marijuana. There's like a whole bunch of other components in there that you could be using if you just put more research into it.
you know what's absolutely crazy though? What I actually kind of enjoyed was seeing when they legalized it, everyone started becoming a whole lot more knowledgeable on it. Uh, and it was kind of quite funny seeing the older generations, all that propaganda at the beginning where they talk about, oh, you'll lose your car, you'll lose your family, your job, you'll be homeless on the streets. Uh, and then now, you see those same people going into those stores getting that CBD cream
Getting the
because it has
fucking
been helping them in medical ways.
going into
So
the dispos. It's for medical purposes, I swear.
it was funny watching them be all tentative walking in there. And because I think I've told you before, I've done security for one of the dispensaries, and they came in there like, I want the stuff that like helps my joints. I don't want the stuff that gets me high. And we kind of laugh on the inside, and it's all in good fun and good nature. But it's funny seeing the perspective change and how everything has changed on an individual and societal level. So
It honestly seeing evolution in society is crazy. It's crazy as well when you consider it. You're going through the motions of that yourself. Soon you're gonna be
oh
one of
no,
those old boomers, like freaking
oh dude, we're going
something that
we're,
we think is completely outlandish right now. It's just gonna be like so universally accepted a few generations from now. We're gonna be going freaking crazy.
oh dude, I'm already. Geez, I'm feeling that. I'm trying to be aware. Like, I don't want to be. that guy, and I know as stubborn as I am, and I'm just repeating the pattern that everyone else has already done already. It's kind of hilarious.
You
And
ever quit and you're like, it's not gonna happen to me. Dude, you're going through the cycle and you don't even realize it, man. It's crazy.
oh, things never change, but everything changes. What do you think the next drug they're gonna make legal is? I'm going with shrooms.
Shrooms? I mean, that
It's like,
wouldn't be too bad.
what is it? Psilocybin.
Yeah,
I
psilocybin.
I are from what I'm tracking, I've heard they're already doing it in California. I'm at
Oh,
Colorado, and
yeah,
they're trying to
they
already
are legal in Colorado. That is very interesting.
wait. Last I heard, they were actually trying to make it legal, just make psilocybin legal. I don't know about shrooms or turning it into a medical product like they did with medical marijuana. What do you know about that?
Not too much. I mean, I remember seeing like a headline about it, like having something related to legality in Colorado. I could look it up right now.
Jamie, look it up.
Let's go. I got
That's
you,
what we
Jamie,
need.
for now. Okay, so this is what it says, and this is as of June 21st, 2023.
Hmm.
Are allowed to grow and consume psilocybin and psilocybin mushrooms and their derivatives, as well as have ibogaine, I might be mispronouncing that, mescaline, and DMT for personal use. The law does not set specific quantity limits. Huh, that's
Holy
no
cow.
quantity limits?
No, dude, you could just walk around with
A
like a
trash
pound
bag
of
full of freaking
DMT.
shrooms in your trunk? That's insane. Dude, no quantity
uh,
limits, huh? Wow. And as of 2024, Denver is still pushing for more legality regarding magic mushrooms. That's very interesting. I mean,
who'd have thunk it?
marijuana still isn't federally legal. It's only legal in a couple states.
Dude, it's wild. I mean, what, nicotine was like the only legal thing for how long? And then now, just in our lifetime, now it's marijuana, DMT, psilocybin. I mean, I wonder how far it's going to go just in our lifetime.
I
Think full
remember,
legalization of everything?
yeah. I mean, sometimes people call it, it's more so decriminalization, where they are
Hmm.
still are very much aware of the potential effects that can come with overindulgence or misuse of such substances. But yeah, I mean, if you like put less barriers around it, I mean, it creates more familiarity with it, so that way you can possibly handle or mitigate those negative effects as well.
It's just absolutely nuts in that whole regard.
Indeed. I mean, this is crazy. I believe we just like spoke for 10 minutes about marijuana, which was our sponsor.
Sponsored by drugs.
Sponsored
Hell
by
yeah.
drugs, indeed. Yeah, bro. You know, we're promoting hedonism and self deprecation on this podcast.
Remember, marijuana is the gateway drug. You start doing that, next thing you know, you're having gay butt sex in the tunnel.
Not to
No
mention
family, no car.
meth needles sticking out of your freaking veins.
Just limping along the sidewalk.
Okay, I'm going to talk about today's topic. I picked it specifically from one of my favorite authors, Robert Greene. He wrote the 48 Laws of Power, which I do want to preface this by saying that I was reading that shit before it became mainstream, so fuck all of you. I knew that shit before it was on the fucking
Just
TikTok.
jerk yourself off. Congrats, you read a book.
I will jerk myself off because I read that shit when I was 14 years old. Brother, I was 14 years old.
Well,
I was a freshman in
really?
high school reading that shit. You have motherfuckers in their 20s still trying to make sense of that.
Wait a minute. Well, the thing is I haven't read it. I believe I've just kind of glanced over the chapters. I read a little synopsis about it. And while I wouldn't say I've got the formal education and knowledge on it. I would say on a kind of general sense, I do execute some of those already. But
Yeah.
one, I'm almost 30. Two, how I'm kind of actually interested. How did you read it and comprehend it as a 14-year-old?
How do I read it? Let's
I
see.
mean, like your perspective as a 14-year-old. Like that's kind of nuts.
My perspective on it was I looked at it as I looked at it as a method of because I guess I was always kind of interested in the concept of strategy. I was always interested in the idea of like planning things out and like having specific tactics that lead to a very calculated desired result. So and the thing with the I guess what the thing with the 48 laws of power is I guess I was able to intuitively grasp how it could be very applicable to like real life situations, you know? And on top of that, it categorized it as well. It wasn't just like a long essay on this is how strategy works and this is how you make all your tactics work together seamlessly and how you take advantage of your position and all that. Like it would the formatting of the book, if you read the book, it's the law. They have the specific law there, and then they have they'll give you a specific example in history where they'll give you a specific example in history where this law was explained perfectly. I forget which law.
Explained and
I
applied.
could try and look it up right now. It's not even the law we were talking about, but it caught my attention when I was 14 years old because it was talking about a chess game. It was talking about here. Let me
Really?
yeah, yeah. Here, let me find it right now. Well, not a chess game. It was more so a chess tournament. It was like a championship tournament where two of the best players had to go against each other over for several matches. So let me see if I can find it right now.
Best players. Huh.
Okay, I think it was Law 17. Law here, yeah, yeah. I guess we'll talk about this one instead. Then I suppose since this is how the conversation's flowing. It was Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. And so the example that was used for this here, let me see if I could find it. I'm pretty if I could find the entire fucking book online, dude. Cause yeah, it was a chess tournament, and basically what it was this this grandmaster was doing these things where he would show up to the match late, or he would show up extremely early, or he would just literally he would do like the most random, unpredictable stuff in order to get into the other guy's head.
Huh, sounds like Magnus Carlsen a little bit.
Yeah, here it is. I got the example right here. Okay, it's Bobby Fischer. Interesting.
Oh, that
Okay,
guy
here,
didn't
here.
just win; he won one.
In May of 1972, chess champion Boris Spassky anxiously awaited rival Bobby Fischer in, I don't know what the fuck that name is, Iceland. The two men had been scheduled to meet for the World Championship of Chess, but Fischer had not arrived on time and the match was on hold. Fischer had problems with the size of the prize money, problems with the way the money was to be distributed, and problems with the logistics of holding the match in Iceland. He might back out at any moment. Spassky tried to be patient. His Russian bosses felt Fischer was humiliating him and told him to walk away, but Spassky wanted his match. He knew he could destroy Fischer, and nothing was going to spoil the greatest moment of his career. Fischer finally arrived in Iceland, but the problems, the threat of cancellation, continued. He disliked the hall where the match was to be fought. He criticized the lighting and complained about the noise of the cameras. He even hated the chairs in which he and Spassky were to sit. The bluff worked. After weeks of waiting, endless and infuriating negotiations, Fischer agreed to play. Everyone was relieved, no one more than Spassky.
That's funny. You it's crazy. A lot. I know people that would hear that and they go, "That's not fair. Why can't he just like go in and play the game and stop whining?"
Sounds
And they
like a
would have
mental
all the
bench.
complaints in the world. But the thing is he's doing what he wants to win. I respect
Yeah.
the hell out of that, and the results speak for themselves. Complain as much as you want about what he did, but he won. He's considered the best.
In the next games, Fischer pulled moves that no one had seen from him before, moves that were not his style. Spassky started to make blunders. After losing the sixth game, he started to cry. One grandmaster saw this and said, "After this, Spassky's got to ask himself if it's safe to go back to Russia." After the eighth game, Spassky decided he knew what was happening. Bobby Fischer
Oh
was
no,
hypnotizing him. He decided not to look Bobby Fischer in the eye and lost anyway.
no, no. Oh, he had a mind fucked. That is
Yeah.
hilarious.
Wait,
He was
wait.
hypnotizing you.
It gets worse. It gets worse. After the 14th game, he called a staff conference and announced, "An attempt is being made to control my mind." He wondered whether the orange juice they drank at the chess table could have been drugged. Maybe chemicals were being blown into the air. Finally, Spassky went public, accusing the Fisher team of putting something in the chairs that was altering Spassky's mind.
Oh my, dude, that's the ultimate win right there.
Yup, complete mind games with this. And really,
Wow, he broke a
explains Law
motherfucker.
17 perfectly, doesn't it?
Make the connection.
Cultivating an air of unpredictability, keeping others in suspense, with Fisher constantly trying to demand all these different negotiations, trying to get all these different demands and stuff that was just screwing with Spassky's head. To where he was basically willing to accept
Huh.
anything that Fisher handed him.
Well, when you put it like that, it does make sense.
Yeah, it was a specific example used in the book. The whole thing, yeah, the whole thing with it is, yeah, I mean, if we're looking at it from a combative perspective, your enemy wants to be able to predict what you're going to do next. It gives them a sense of control in their mind. It gives them a sense of, okay, I can handle what this guy's throwing at me. But
Hmm.
if they don't know what they're going to be handed to them, if they don't know what you're going to do next, if they don't know what range of possible attacks you could use, or if you're going to be moving more defensively, if they just don't know what to expect from you, they can't anticipate your next move, and so it could potentially give you an advantage if you know what you're doing, because then you're catching them off guard and they won't be able to put up as much of a formidable defense against any attacks that you throw. That's what I'm
Ah,
hearing from it.
dude, not only does that make sense, but that also is similar to a Marine Corps doctrine, not specifically saying that that's what we trained for, but in regards to the whole, uh, what the Americans are good at what they do because they thrive in chaos
Mm-hmm.
and chaotic environments. Uh, how we described it is if we don't know what we're doing, then how can anyone predict what we're doing?
Yeah,
Dude,
I've heard people say that before.
it's true.
How could
I
it
think
work
it's
against you though? Could you see a
nope.
potential con with that?
Yeah, there is potential in taking advantage of the chaos, but that's also why specifically, improvise, adapt, overcome. There's a difference between creating chaos to take advantage of it, but then there's a difference between learning how to be chaos or be chaotic yourself so that instead of you getting caught up in it, you're actually flowing with the chaos.
Flowing with the chaos.
Uh, Yep. Because and the only way to really you can't because it's a concept, so you can't even beat chaos. I mean, you could do extreme order to control it, but what happens when you get the military, which is the height of order and professionalism, but
Very
then
true.
you teach them also how to be chaos, then you literally have the best of both worlds. Chaos and you can dictate the chaos with
Organized
extreme discipline
chaos.
and
I've heard
order.
of that before.
Yep, and we're the best.
It's
So
I mean, shoot, being able to attain that level of balance definitely has to be quite difficult. I mean, shoot, I mean, there's a lot of people that have a fear of the idea of chaos. Just in like their lives, just in the way they conduct their business and stuff. They don't like the idea that they don't have control over it.
there's a reason why
Like, I
people
mean,
think we're a little bit crazy, and they might be a little bit right. It does do quite a bit, takes quite a bit to be able to learn both. Because, I mean, even if you take the professionals, because, there's professionals like NFL, baseball, doctors who do surgeries, neurosurgeons. You can take all these professions and even into the ring, one-on-one fighting. Uh, I would say a majority of them are dictated by control and discipline. Talking about fighting, something that you, Stubbs, have a little bit of experience in, there is an element of unpredictability and chaos in what you do. But what are
yes.
the controls? There's one enemy. There's one opponent that you can focus on.
Hmm.
There's you're in. There's also rules in regards to what you can or cannot do that kind of help dictate how the fight may go. There's also,
Your position.
you know, your literally. You're in an octagon, so the area of chaos is limited to that.
Yeah, and you're backed up
Whereas
against the
there's
fence. Do you
no,
have a bunch of space to move? Is the guy trying to close distance on you?
yeah,
And also,
and
it's like noticing where you have advantages in as well. I mean, like yeah, when you're in the middle of the chaos, you're psychologically you're going to want to go with what's the most reliable. You know.
yep, and you're in the moment too, so you don't get zoned. But to put it in perspective, uh, from our chaos, there's no rules. There's pretty much don't get killed, don't let anyone else get killed, and kill the other
Survive.
guy.
Yeah.
There's anywhere from right in front of you, 5 feet away, to the guy could be, a mile away taking pot shots at you with their version of the 50. So,
It's pretty clear and straightforward.
360 degrees, top, underneath. I'm not worried about one guy with his fists. I'm worried about anywhere from one guy to an entire company of guys that don't have any rules. They have all the weapons at their disposal. And sometimes there's even the unseen enemy that we have to beat as well. So it's yeah, you're pretty much spot on when you're talking about the level of chaos is quite different.
I guess
But
example.
that
What were
is
you
not
saying?
to take away from fighters. That is just showing that at the professional level there is difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, and yeah, I'm finding another example of this right now, which I think would ring pretty well for you because it involves the military. This was during the Civil War with General Stonewall Jackson.
Hey, motherfucking Stonewall Jackson. That guy's nuts. Like, that guy was nuts. He would literally ride into battle with his arms held in certain positions because it would help balance out I think it was the flow of blood in his body or just something. Like, oh yeah, dude. Stonewall
So
Jackson.
Stonewall Jackson confused and stymied the much larger Union forces that were marching on Richmond by repeatedly moving north and then back south again. In response, Union General George McClellan slowed his forces while trying to figure out what was going on, which gave the South time to reinforce Richmond. This turned certain defeat into a draw. General Jackson avoided outright defeat by following Law 17, keep others in suspense, cultivate an air of unpredictability.
That's pretty devious. That's smart as hell, though.
Yeah, efficient. He kind of had no choice, you know.
Well, you always have a choice, but it's to be able to be in a situation like that to turn chicken shit into chicken salad, and it requires a certain mindset to be able to do that. Because else everyone would do it, even though everyone does have the potential and capabilities to do it.
Very true. Very true. It took resourcefulness. It took adaptability. It took some
Hey, yo.
like it took definitely that mental fortitude to be like it's cool. Just focus on the long game with this.
Well, here's the thing: is ask the question, what did he do? How did he do it? But what was his mentality? It's like, sometimes you're surprised by people and what they can come up with mentally.
Hmm.
Uh, and my whole fascination is how did he do that? Is it
How
something he
did he
was born
process? How
with
did he
or
have the
did he
thought
learn it?
process to do that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's like, was he just born with the ability to think like that?
Shoot,
Or,
it was the fucking Civil War, bro. I feel like the mentality those guys had is like way different to the mentality of the average bloke today.
oh, dude, different time, different era,
I
100%.
mean, weren't those guys eating like fucking just straight up biscuit flakes and water? Which sounds like some shit you guys do in the Marine Corps.
No, it's not nearly that frugal at all. Of course, it's comparing and contrasting to the real world. Uh, there definitely is a difference, but flakes and water, nah, not that crazy.
Biscuit flakes and fucking water. Yeah, tough ass motherfuckers.
It's just like,
And think about it too. Think about if you if you end up getting injured, if you end up getting shot by a bullet, think about how more primitive medical procedures were back then. If you ended up getting injured, chances are they just straight up chop that shit off.
I'm so glad. And like, as much as people complain about crap, I am so glad and so blessed that I'm literally born during this day and age where we didn't have to go through that stuff. I mean, shit, you can talk to two
It's luck. It
generations
really
ago.
is luck, dude. You really did get lucky. You take advantage of it for sure.
I'm with you on that one. Do the best with what we can with what we have and just try to appreciate what was. Don't take any advantage of anything, basically.
Okay. I'm gonna move on to the Q&A section of this podcast. On social media, I dropped a whole bunch of prompts asking you guys to ask questions. You motherfuckers are boring as shit. I will say that. A lot of you guys seem to say, a lot of you guys seem to think it has to be like some super in-depth fucking question. Like, bro, just it's my first episode. Just ask me something basic, and I'll fucking chop it up with the boys.
Give the audience what it wants.
I'm just saying, bro. I'm just saying. Like, you and I literally just had like a 5 to 10 minute conversation on weed and shrooms. I wasn't even on the fucking script.
That's good stuff. That just means we take the questions that they give us, not only give them the answers they want, but we take their answers and go more in depth.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Thank you.
What's the first question?
Point being, you guys don't have to overthink it. Drop anything, and we can make a good conversation out of it. Now, moving on
Oh,
to the first question.
give it the good old
Comes
college
from
try.
Moderately Okay. What are your thoughts on wrestling versus Brazilian Jiu Jitsu? A very, very popular debate in the MMA community, indeed. I mean, I do believe that statistically speaking, wrestling has proven to be more effective than Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I think it focuses a lot more on like maintaining position over a person, which in a 5 minute round will definitely that obviously looks good on the judges' scorecards. And on top of that, yeah, just by being able to maintain position, it gives you more options while giving your opponent less options. So I think wrestling's control based nature, or at least in freestyle wrestling, that definitely gives an advantage for MMA based rule sets. Folk style does have a bit more scrambling and stuff, so I mean you don't really see that too often though. So Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, I mean you see some really crafty guys when it comes to the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu aspect, but I would definitely say that they're a bit more like outliers. Like if we're talking dudes like if we're like in modern MMA history, guys like Diego Lopez or like Charles Oliveira. These guys are freaking wicked when it comes to just throwing these submissions up, just constantly threatening. I mean, Lopez has a fight against Brian Ortega this Saturday, who is another submission artist. Brian Ortega, if just to give you guys a bit of background on him, because I think actually using him would be a perfect example for this debate. Brian Ortega was trained by Henner Gracie, a literal descendant of the Gracie family from the Gracie Jiu Jitsu lineage. He has had lifelong training from this guy. Was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu wizard, dude. Like, if you watch his fights, if like one of my particular favorites was the one against Cub Swanson, where he hit him with the standing guillotine, wraps his legs around him, and just fucking chokes him out. It was literally just such a dramatic submission, bro. One of my favorite finishes for sure. But this dude's crazy good at just getting these wicked freaking submissions out of nowhere. But then you see him go against Alexander Volkanovski. Short, fucking 5'6" dude, built like a freaking tank, dude. Just Aussie, Aussie, Aussie. I'll just say fucking that.
Okay.
But Volkanovski's like a freaking machine, dude, alright? And a bit of background on him, this dude was doing rugby. Doing like he's 5'6" and I believe he weighed like 215 pounds and was a
Mhm.
hardcore rugby player. And he was able to translate that into his MMA career by just shooting these crazy, explosive, strong takedowns, and then by maintaining position over these long, lanky dudes, he's able to just like push them up against the fence, maintain position, and hit him with this sick ground and pound. And that's exactly what he was doing to Brian Ortega. Ortega had him with these crazy submission attempts. He had him with a guillotine, and he also had him with a triangle. But I mean, Volkanovski is also an outlier. I will say that the submission that Ortega had on him was just so fucking tight. I don't know how Volkanovski didn't tap out to that. Literally just used pure grit to muscle his way through it. And then on top of that, he gets on top of Ortega, pushes him up against the fence, and hits him with ground and pound. He goes against the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu guy who's throwing crazy submissions and prefers to stay on the ground against him and just hit him with sick shots on top. It's crazy, dude. Crazy. But yeah, I mean, like I said, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu offers that unique thread of, like I said, the variety of submissions. But I think mixing the two would be great. The positions and the dominance that you get from wrestling, along with the versatility and the unique threats that Brazilian Jiu Jitsu has, it would make you a very formidable foe indeed. What do you think?
Think it depends on what your goal is and what you're aiming for. I haven't done Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but I have done enough wrestling. Uh, from what I see, it's almost like the difference between like kickboxing and Muay Thai. Uh,
Okay.
Wrestling seems to be more, what's the word to use? When it comes to wrestling, it's not as detail oriented. You're doing leg sweep or takedowns, uh, rock the cradle, Saturday Night Ride, single legs, double legs. It's all a lot of big movements that you try to keep as small as possible. Whereas from what I've seen from Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, you're a lot more free to do stuff because in wrestling, you got folk style and freestyle. I prefer freestyle because folk style has too many moves or too many
Super
rules.
scramble based. I mean, it looks, it's very aesthetically pleasing. I'll say that. Like, I mean, just like as a small dude that likes to use agility, watching folk style wrestlers just like fucking do these crazy scrambles and these crazy escapes and shit. It's very cool to watch. What were you saying?
No, no, I'm just thinking about your comments. So I'm like, yeah, is it all that in a bag of chips? I mean, because
I
it is cool to watch them scramble, especially when you're looking at the college level dudes
Oh yeah,
and
definitely. I
whatnot.
mean, those guys are like on fucking all the juice you could imagine, though, too.
Well, I mean, using your comment about how cool it looks when I'm looking at the BJJ guys and I'm just trying to follow what they're doing, because from someone who doesn't know what they're doing, it looks like two guys kind of just turtle humping each other. And like they're just grabbing onto each other and they're kind of rolling here and there. And it's like you don't understand the level of the intricate movements that go into every little thing that they're doing. And that's
Oh
what
yeah,
fascinates me is because there's a million things going on a tiny detail. Whereas if they're wrestling, I'm like, oh, that guy swept in for a double. That guy sprawled. They're to me they're big, long, sweeping movements. Uh, which
so
you
you're
do have your
saying
chain
wrestling's more
wrestlers and whatnot.
pragmatic, right? It's more like straight to the point wrestling.
Yes, actually, BJJ is more like I like to say it's a chess match. To someone who's not educated on what's going on, it's like, oh, those guys, BJJ isn't that much. Chess isn't that much. They're just moving pieces around. But then when you have an in-depth understanding, it's like, no, they're doing a hell of a lot. They're planning, thinking way ahead. There's all these little intricacies
Yeah,
that you
little
got to
things
learn
with
of. To
like,
me, that's
yeah,
what
hooks
BJJ
and
is like.
stuff. Yeah, like how you have your legs hooked and stuff. Things like that.
Dude,
Like
legs,
like yeah,
hooks,
where to
body
put pressure.
position.
Like people like putting pressure on the hamstring so that way you could stop them from like driving and exploding. Little like
It's like
crazy small details.
yeah, so yeah, I would say, and like, don't get me wrong, there's perks to each. I mean, if BJJ, but you got someone who's extremely proficient at wrestling, you're going to be a disadvantage in that. But when it comes to like chess versus checkers, uh, you know, I would say BJJ is great to learn, but also you don't disregard checkers just because chess is more complicated.
Yeah.
In fact, it's like the difference between easy to learn, hard to master, hard to learn, easy to master, or easier to master. They're both absolutely crazy, but on their own levels.
Wrestling is shoot so physically intensive. So many people consider wrestling to be like one of the most yeah it, one of the or sometimes the most brutal sport that a person can put themselves through. Just
Yeah, well,
wrestling another human being.
but
Another human
geez,
being that's fighting back, might I add. Fighting back and trying to take you down and pin you down.
well, dude, it's when it
Like
comes
with
to
jujitsu, dude, like
conditioning.
think about how many guard players are in jujitsu. How many guys like to fucking open their legs and be like, "Come into my guard, bro. Come into my guard, bro." Or like they just like to fucking play around with the leg locks and the ankle locks. You don't really have that shit in wrestling. You like it's like almost always just active, exploding, constantly trying. It's wrestling. Jiu-jitsu,
Depends how
take a
good
more
you are.
passive role if
I
you
know
want
a
to do.
guy who, guy's name's Jim Bourne, probably the most badass guy I know, who once
Hello.
in Montana, he wrestled for his high school when he was in, I think, what was it? He was what's the last grade in middle school? Eighth grade? He was
Eighth
an
grade?
eighth
Oh, middle
grader.
school? Yeah, I think it's eighth grade. Yeah.
He was wrestling for his high school already at that time and one stayed at eighth grader. Then he won gold at the Pan Am and he was training for the Olympics. Uh, and the guy who he was wrestling behind took over for him when he got injured and still won gold. And this guy, when he's sharing stories, I mean, he was good enough that he could also slow down and kind of goof around too. He kind of said he would play around with dudes. He'd take them down, let them back up, get a nice little 5, 6 point lead,
I
and
remember
then
a
he
guy
would just
did that to me, bro. That's how you know they're just comfortable.
that just made oh dude, to be
I literally
manhandled
had a
like that.
dude shoot a fucking double leg on me, slam me on my fucking ass. Then he backed up and let me get back up. And you want to know what makes it worse? I fucking when I tried to get back up, I was like super like rushed with that shit. So like I tried to get back up and I fucking slipped and fell on my ass again, and then got back up.
Oh, that.
And he was literally just standing there waiting for me to do all that, and then just starts fucking
Oh,
again. I'm like,
that that's oh, dude. When you're just no, I've had that happen once where you just completely outclassed.
yeah, dude.
Ain't nothing you can
Shoot,
do about it. I mean, I had a
he's
guy
been
put me in a
training since
stack.
he was in the fucking diapers, bro. Like grappling was literally his fucking birthright. His dad is a fucking black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He had an older brother who was an MMA fighter, also did Brazilian jiu-jitsu and I think did wrestling. He was doing high school wrestling himself at the time. So yeah, he was just a fucking beast.
Good old days. Probably should have took it a little bit more seriously, but
Good old days. That shit was like 3 years ago for me, bro.
oh no, I'm too young to be saying back in the good old days.
Yeah,
Something's
bro.
wrong.
Fucking 28, 29, bro. Fucking get out of here, bro.
Things are just moving at a faster rate than back in the day.
That is true. For this next
um,
question, this is from Zozander the Goat. I believe this is towards me personally. How did you get into combat sports? Shoot, bro. I mean, it's definitely a long history for sure. A very long, extensive history. I'll give a watered down version of it because it's definitely a really good story that I could tell another time. When I was a little youngster, I used to watch fucking Bruce Lee.
you're still a little youngster.
I'm talking like when I'm talking about my head was disproportionate to my body. I'm
You're
talking.
saying it's changed? I'm sorry. Keep
Yeah,
going. Keep going.
fuck you, bro. Hey, a big head means you can tank some shots, so I'm not too bothered.
Well, it's kind of a waste of space when it's empty as yours.
It's empty as. Hey, let me clear
uh,
the fucking cobwebs, bro. I might be able to outwit you.
uh-huh. I've been playing Battlefield 4 this whole time.
Get the fuck out of here. Multitasking motherfucker. Nice, nice. Well, good to see that you're comfortable though.
Oh, dude, no, I appreciate you being able to set the environment to where it's able to be like that.
All we
So,
gotta do is just talk, bro. All we gotta do is just
back
talk.
back to your story though. How'd you get into combat sports?
Yeah, when I was a little 4 year old, I was watching these Bruce Lee movies and all these kung fu movies. I thought that stuff was pretty cool. I wanted to learn how to fight. I got into kung fu when I was like 6 years old. I did,
Whoa, really?
yeah, yeah. It started with kung fu actually. That's yeah.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait. Hold the fucking horses. I knew you had like certain experience, but especially as a kid watching The Matrix and seeing Neo, go, I know kung fu, and then he
Oh
fights
yeah, dude. I
Morpheus.
got so hyped up when I saw that, bro.
Oh, dude, no, 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 no. Okay, okay. I don't know Jack Diddley Dick about that. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting. Is it questions for another time? Or can you tell me a little bit more about Kung Fu? Is it I think a lot of people have
I
questions.
can
Is it
talk about it a little bit.
practical?
Shoot, I mean, depends on who you're training under. Yeah, it strongly depends on who you're training under because kung fu definitely. I like to say that a majority of kung fu schools focus more on the art than the martial part. I would say.
Okay.
Like it's very like they focus a lot on the culture. They very much want to like preserve the tradition and the culture that kung fu revolves around. So it's like also being able to do things like shot blessings for lion dancing, being able to do like shoot, being able to honor your former grandmasters and things like that. Also the forms as well, like it's like kind of similar to like kata, which you would see in like taekwondo and stuff. So like
Uh-huh.
all of those are like moves that have like centuries of history behind it. So yeah, it definitely focuses on that. But if you have a school that focuses a lot more on that, that is kind of the opposite of practical, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not going to be more fucking practical than boxing, where you like on your first lesson you learn to keep your fucking hands up, chin tucked, and how to throw a jab. And,
Okay.
and just those lessons alone can be like very useful. Learning to keep your hand like just learning how to fucking block a punch, dude. Seriously, because like the average person out on like if we're talking from a streets perspective, the average dude is gonna throw a right haymaker. So just learning how to keep like a fucking wing guard is like gonna help your chances so much. But yeah, I started with kung fu. Yeah, I mean kung fu is good kicks. I will say that if we're talking about the strengths and advantages of kung fu, they have very good and very strong kicks. So I think if you honestly, if you were to take some aspects of kung fu and mix it with other fighting styles as well, I think that it
Mm-hmm.
would definitely make you an interesting threat.
All right, so started out with Kung Fu when you were 6 years, 14 or six.
I started when I was 6. Then when I was
Mhm.
14 to 15, my friends in high school started getting me more into boxing. This was when I was 12, I did like hear about Conor McGregor and stuff, so that was kind of like my intro into MMA. I remember even seeing like a Rafael dos Anjos fight, if you know who he is, RDA.
Not necessarily familiar.
He's actually pretty old school. He's kind of a veteran of the game now, but yeah, RDA's been around in the UFC for a while, bro. But I saw an RDA. I saw an RDA fight. I saw Connor's fights. I remember seeing that rivalry with Cormier and John Jones. I was like in middle school to high school around this time, so I remember like that kind of catching my eye. But like in high school, when I was around a lot of people that had experience doing things like boxing, and I had a friend who did MMA too. He taught me a bit of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu when I was 14. But things like that kind of like were my introduction into mainstream combat sports. Started watching more UFC. I started watching more MMA. I started watching grappling. I started watching boxing. And when I was 15, I started doing boxing at Richard Steele Boxing.
Hey, that's a
Yes,
good
sir.
play.
Yeah. I got some good lessons. I got good fundamentals there. I got pretty good fundamentals there, I would say.
Oh, dude.
Very happy with my time there. It definitely improved me, and it definitely improved my. It gave me a really strong base as a fighter. I would say doing a bit of boxing.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot.
I mean, it's definitely specializes in throwing hands, and it's just without going too crazy into everything. I do believe just like wrestling, boxing is fundamental to knowing how to do that. And you can't skip any of the steps. You got to build up till you're completely fluid in everything. And part of
Yeah.
being fluid is knowing how to use your feet, hands, the basics, and then you could start going into the more crazy shit.
Slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Jay, you got all the time in the world to learn all these martial arts, so stop trying to take the short way and skip all the necessary training.
Well,
I
that
mean, you got
depends, bro. I
roots.
mean, people have work. People do have jobs and stuff. I wouldn't say you have all the time in the world.
That it,
A lot of people struggle to be able to balance their training and their actual professional life.
no, no, that is true.
But
So,
I got into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu when I was age 16 to 17 as well. That was my grappling experience. Well, that was some of my grappling experience. But I mean, I guess yeah. In my youth, I actually had a pretty well-rounded training background. I learned some good kicks. I learned some. I learned like some very flamboyant kicks and attacks from kung fu. I got a good idea of like the basic fundamentals with like blocking and like boxing and stuff from when I did boxing, and then I got
Mm-hmm.
grappling from when I did Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
So, and would you say that pretty much covers all your? Does that cover everything?
It doesn't cover everything. I've had there's a lot more detail I could go in it, but I just wanted to give you the general outline. I don't want to talk too much about my history just yet. For all the viewers
Okay.
out there, because we are doing this is a podcast, you will learn a lot more about my experience as a fighter when I compete.
No. I look forward to it. I can when you do. Hey, when you do actually go and start actually competing, let me know and send me all the links and whatnot so I can follow you as well.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Yeah, we will definitely. Yeah, I will definitely
like I said,
keep you involved in that. 'Cause
I got Stubbs right now, who's I'm always having him keep me in the loop about who he's fighting, what he's doing, and he sends me the links and whatnot uh, for his crap.
yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. I definitely. I'd be very happy to have you around and involved in my fighting career. I mean, just you doing this right now, helping me film my podcast. This is all part of a much bigger thing. So you're helping.
Yes, sir.
Hmm?
So yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Which brings me to my next question from my sponsor, the Holistic Solace. What's one Brazilian Jiu Jitsu technique you find will be effective in a future street beefs match? Very.
One more time.
What's one Brazilian Jiu Jitsu technique you find will be effective in a future street beefs match? So basically, when
Well, if you're doing,
MMA and street beefs, what would be a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu technique that would be very useful for me? I mean, I would say there's actually some pretty good Brazilian Jiu Jitsu guys on street beefs. I've noticed. You have some guys in there with some good submission skills for sure. Shoot, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't necessarily say that a specific technique would be useful. I would say more so a specific skill set. So, and in that case, it would probably. I'm just gonna be practical as hell and say like learning a good single leg takedown would be useful. Being able to control and dictate where the fight goes, yeah, that definitely gives me an advantage. So yeah, a good takedown would be a very effective Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu technique that I would use in a future street beefs match.
all right.
So yeah. Okay, our last question here. This one's from Jay Calhoun. Do you see yourself in the UFC or any organization? If you do you see yourself holding a title for a long time? Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So this is going into like yeah, more of my professional and future goals regarding MMA. Obviously going into the UFC would be ideal, bro. I mean, that's like it's the most prominent fighting organization at the moment. It's where all of the highest level combatants are. I mean, and it seems it would give the most opportunity for me in terms of like different ways that I could leverage my career. So UFC would be ideal. I would definitely be set on that. I gotta focus on the first few steps though, and just focus on getting shit done right now. Gotta focus on training. Gotta focus on like becoming a quality product to where the UFC would want to invest in me. And I gotta build up my resume. I gotta build up my portfolio, which I plan on doing so by competing on street beefs in the future. I'm very interested in doing that, competing on street beefs. I think that if I did that, that would be a very smart move for my career. And I think that you guys would be very privileged to see somebody as skilled as me fight if I'm sucking my own dick.
Well, like I said, the more you do it, the more people are gonna believe in it.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, we're just getting started, bro. We definitely are. If you're watching this podcast now, I'm very glad that you are, and I hope that you keep up with my future moves, because I will definitely be I will definitely be doing some very noteworthy things. I will definitely be having some very cool I intend on having some good highlight moments in my career for sure. I definitely want to show these guys what I'm capable of. Don't want I don't I guess the reason why I'm kind of having trouble wording this is because I don't want to give away too much, but you guys will be able to retreat when I do fight.
You do your thing, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's see here. You still playing Battlefield?
Yes.
Okay, okay. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for our first podcast episode. We just hit the 1 hour mark, I believe, as well.
For real?
Yeah, dude. 12:30. I called you at 11:30, right? Yeah, this podcast is
Man,
gonna be like a little bit less than an hour, man.
dude, sounds bueno.
Well, I wanted to thank everybody or anybody who showed up and watched this. I wanted to thank my close friend Stephen Bradley for helping me out with this. We just had a quality conversation in it itself. Podcast or no podcast, it was always good talking with you, bro.
Dude, once again, man. Yeah, no, I never thought that I would actually. How do I put it? I never thought that I would actually ever be on any kind of podcast whatsoever, even though the idea has been thrown around a bit. So I appreciate you not only allowing me to help you pop your freaking podcast cherry, but then also allowing me to see how it actually works on this side.
Yeah, bro. Okay, in terms of future plans for this, I definitely plan on having more episodes. I'm gonna be dropping more Q&A, so you fucks better start dropping questions. We could have some interesting conversation on here. I also plan on having guests on as well. I'm very flexible with right now at the moment. Well, we'll see what happens in the future, but definitely looking forward to having some people on here and having some good talks with them for sure. Thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate you guys watching today's episode. Stay tuned for more content in the future.